Hey, this is Chris Green from This Design Life. You guys have been sending me logos. I've been critiquing them, and the point of this is so that you, as a designer, can see some impartial feedback on what you've created, how you can tweak it, how you can change it, how you can improve it, how you can simplify it, and how you can make it a better, stronger logo. And hopefully during this process, and as I keep creating these videos, you'll be learning how to develop your style, develop your own personal design awareness, so when you're creating logos, you create the best you can for the logos and hopefully get paid more and be a better designer. So let's dive right in. Okay, first up in this session, Philippe Rabani has sent me a logo design for a Christian camp, leadership and discipleship. So, whoa. Okay, so I see what you've done here. It looks like something from Assassin's Creed on first glance, which I'm not sure is a good thing in terms of crusades and that kind of stuff. I kind of get what you are doing here, but from what I understand about Christianity is it wants to be welcoming, not conquering. But maybe you have to tell me a bit more about what you're trying to do. From an aesthetics point of view, the texture's pretty heavy around here. Kind of like what you've done with the shapes here. So the helmet coming around I assume it's a helmet. The helmet coming around the cross. Really, there's a few too many embellishments here, though. I'm not quite sure what this is here. It looks like an anchor, and the cross could do with being a lot thicker to compensate for this space around it here. And the text is very light when you zoom out. So when you look at it small like this, it's pretty hard to read what's going around here, and this line isn't necessary at all. So I kind of get what you tried to do. I see there's a shield there. It's sort of like this warrior thing happening. If that's what you're going for, great. But maybe think about the connotations of that in terms of Christianity being sort of, all-inclusive, missionary kind of thing. So, yeah, I hope that's useful. And then we're going to go on to Muhammad Alam, logo for my own design brand website. Okay, so I'm assuming this says Memix, I think. I'm assuming that's what it says. And I'm not sure whether this is a typeface or whether this is something you've manipulated to get these kind of shapes. Not exactly sure what you were going for here. In terms of this pencil, to me it looks like it's just been kind of whacked into the middle of the logo, or to the right of the logo. In terms of you being about branding and design, a pencil is a very old logo, old style way of doing things, because a pencil is only part of the branding process in terms of the sketching and coming up with logo ideas. There's a lot more to it, and you may limit yourself just by having this here. Positives, I quite like the colours. I'm assuming you've put this as a kind of forward in terms of the orange here. That might be something you want to work a bit more on. But with a lot of these shapes, it's fairly aggressive looking. It's something you see on kind of a Metallica or that kind of band. These very sharp edges, or something like Halo or that kind of thing. So again, as a designer, you want to position yourself as experts in a certain market if you're going after a particular type of client. And maybe that's what you're trying to do, so great. But if you're trying to appeal to a lot of different companies who would want to use you as a designer, this is probably going to be a little bit sort of aggressive, and this is a little bit dated, and the two don't go together all that well, unfortunately. So, yeah, mate. I'll tell you what though, Mohammed, one of these letters, like this M here, this by itself might be the startings of a logo. So maybe look at this as an icon, because there's some really funky shapes in here. And then the name, Memix, if that's what it is, maybe that then can be a simpler typeface. So it's just a thought. Okay, so James Danielle Cochran, I hope that's how you pronounce your name. Logo for a comedy club. It was a part of an identity project at school. So comedy club, side splitters, laugh till you die. I hope no one does die. No, this is I'll focus on this one to the right hand side because I like the colours that you've used on there. One tiny thing, I try not to ever use black text on the logo. This is totally personal preference, but if you'd have made that slightly lighter, so it's like a dark grey, it would have gone really well with the blue. But I do like the colours you've used. I like this light blue colour here, and I like what you've done, taking the I and the D and turning that into a sidewards smiley face. Obviously, emoticons are huge at the moment. There's even a film coming out about it. My daughter told me she wants to see, and I said no. It looks poo. But emoticons are huge. Emoticons are a real big part of our communication now. And I imagine they will be for a long time. So this will make sense to someone who looks at it, and will also make sense from a kind of, you're putting a fun aspect onto the logo, which is brilliant and fits with the comedy aspect completely. Now, what you've also done down here is you put, I'm assuming that's a double T that you've put into a single T. It kind of looks like a T-shirt, kind of looks like someone standing with their arms up. That's how I see it. Now, this is brilliant, and this slightly confuses me. So to use them together is a little bit much. I think you could have just put the T's here as they were, and this still would have worked really well. So what I also like about this logo is you started the strapline where the icon is within the word. So that is really nicely balanced. You don't need the full stop at the end, I don't think, but the way you've balanced this and this here, I would have just pulled it across to this P bit here. That's been very picky, just to give it a little bit more balance. And if you look at the S's, this S here is slightly off to the left. It might be aligned, but I've heard other people say this, like Chris Doe when he's doing logos. Look with your eyes, not just with the guides, because your eyes can sometimes see things and can sometimes align things slightly differently to how they're exactly supposed to be. So I do like this logo. It's very cool. When you have two things going on like this, they kind of compete. So maybe see what it looks like with just the T's as they are. This is cool. No full stop. But this is very smart as well. I'd like to see this as well, maybe on T-shirts. See how that works, and also other parts of the comedy club as well, maybe flyers, things like that. I know it was a project at school, but maybe if you can take it a bit further, it helps you think through the design process as well. So James, that's very cool, well done. You've done another one here, but I'll come back to that, James. So Annapurna, again, terrible with names. I hope that's fine. Logo done for my client Ruhi Fernandez, and I don't know what this means. Again, I can see how you've used Africa, see how you used a face there, and you've used sort of the back and the earring. To me, Annapurna, this is the startings of a logo. This is really over the top effects on the type. You don't need to do this. It makes it very illegible. Makes it really hard to see what these words are. If you squint your eyes, you can't tell what it says at all. With the icon that you're creating here, what I would do is say, right, this is the start. How far can I push this, and can I simplify it any further? Can I take away the black line here? Can I so it's just this color here? Can I simplify some of the lines in the face? I'm not sure why this line is so aggressive here. Maybe bring this round to the shape of the sort of middle area of Africa. Just keep working on ideas around this shape to see if you can come up with anything that's simpler, that's more iconic. Look at Apple, look at the new Microsoft logo, look at Nike and how their logos are very, very simple. Even Target, which is completely simple. Look at those, see how they've done it, and then look at yours and you'll see how there's way too many gradients, tints, lines, flicks going on. It's more of an illustration, but I think it's a good start, and you can take this much further. Okay, so Sheikh Ali, a logo I did for a clothing company which deals in premium streetwear. So okay, so you say premium streetwear, to me this looks like an outdoor range, because to me these look like mountains. I'm assuming they're mountains. It's called Nomad Clothing Co. Now there's a few things here that would make this look a bit better. You see this outline here is thicker than the mountains, if they are mountains. Now what happens is when this is thicker than this, these start to look a bit thin and spindly in comparison to this. So keep that and keep that thick as well. When I mention thick lines, I always say go and look at Aaron Draplin's work. That's Aaron Draplin, Aaron Draplin. Check his logos. He's one of the masters of thick line logos. They're really good. The Nomad clothing, I would personally take this outside of the icon if it worked, because you're going to get it lost in here, especially when it's small like this. You see how tiny it looks. You want to keep this. This is the icon, and make the Nomad word bigger outside. In terms of the typefaces, I quite like this typeface. It looks nice. But you haven't got enough contrast between the two, Nomad and the clothing. The word clothing is not as important as Nomad, so I would make this much bigger and make the clothing smaller. But I like what you've done here with the mountains, similar to something I did a while ago, which I'll probably link to in the video description, just to help you out. This kind of ends up being the top of this mountain, so it works quite well. But just look at the thickness of it, and maybe separate this text. Okay, so is this another one from Amit? No, okay, no, different one. So Amit has done the logo made for Ranch, Riata Ranch. Is that how you pronounce it? Excuse me for a second. So Riata Ranch. Okay, I like what you've done generally, but you've kind of fell into this trap, which a lot of people do, of really over. Taking a logo further in terms of detail than it needs to be, and almost one of my big points with logos is how can you simplify this. So you've got some texture here on the ranch. I like that, but could you have built that texture into the horse, into the person standing on the horse? And then what I've noticed is, and it took me a few moments to realize this, is you've got another logo. You've got kind of a logo within a logo. Which isn't good, because it means you've got two logos going on, one within another. I think this works really well without this logo inside here. This is almost a secondary logo idea that you could have used separately, but I think this would have worked just as well without it. Maybe some texture in here to match this, like that scribble effect, would have worked really well. And then what you've done here, you've noticed, is because you've used a italic typeface, it's almost vertical because of the way that you've slanted it. But then the Three Rivers isn't italic, it's straight up. So it looks slightly odd, because that then looks more on a skew than that there. So maybe that could have come flat underneath. I'm not sure. Maybe the word international could have come flat. And then these here, I see what you've tried to do with them. But maybe two things. I don't think they're necessary, because you've got enough going on here. But if you are going to have them, just have 3 flicks going off, not 6. 6 looks quite a lot. So again, Amit, I think you're halfway there for a really good logo. But bring some of the texture into here. Reduce this down here so that these 2 words stand out more, and this really becomes quite small underneath, maybe even straight. So hope that's useful. And you've done another one there, Amit, but I've just done one of yours, so I'll try and move on quickly. And then, so Andrew Melton, hi Andrew's logo for a contest some co-workers were having in their office, and you've posted 2 of these together. So let's see what you've done here. Okay, so Redstone Satellite Operations Centre. Andrew, there's so much going on in this logo, I don't even know where to start. I like what you've done with the badge. Again, well, no, actually, no, you've gone way over the top with the badge. You've got badges within badges, and you've got moons, and you've got satellites, and you've got eagles, and you've got stars. It's just way too much. It's way too much. Again, Aaron Draplin is a great reference for these. He's done some badges for, I don't know if he's done them for NASA, but they're just NASA-related badges, and they're really smart, and really well put together. You've just got way too many things going on here. I see why you've got eagles and satellites and stuff. This one is probably a little bit better, but there's quite a long way to go on this before it becomes anything like a logo. Just have a look at NASA, how it's so simple. Have a look at a lot of Elon Musk's type logos, and that space exploration part. Just very simple. There's a lot going on here. It's a lot of clip art thrown together. Sorry to be critical, but that's what this is for. So look how simple these logos are down here, and then what you've created is more of a badge. So yeah, it needs quite a bit doing to that. Okay, then we've got... Okay, so this I think was for a soft water drink that he explained to me earlier. So I quite like this. It looks like some kind of bird. It looks like some kind of eagle's eyes and nose. I don't think that's what it's supposed to be, but that's kind of what it reminds me of. I do like the way you've simplified this and gone down to some really nice detail here. I don't know what the Japanese Chinese text means, so you'd have to explain that to me. So when it's on here, I do think it actually looks really nice, so in a soft drink context. So this is what I've mean to you other guys. If you can put it actually into context like this, it really, really helps for me as looking at these to work out exactly what they are. So I can see how these are would look nice together like this. So I think that's a good logo. I think this is slightly when you've make it this small, it's quite hard to read. But with this little sort of twig part in the middle here, it becomes a little bit tricky. So maybe thicken these lines up a little bit and maybe make them fit slightly better within that circle. But overall, I think it's really good. I like how you've implemented it on the bottles, and it looks very, very smart. So that's good work, Sen. And I don't know how to pronounce your name, sorry, but it's AKX. Is that what it is? Design times Dragon, or designed by Dragon. Logo for my brand. Will I be showcasing my designs and stories inspired by Dungeons and Dragons? Okay, so it's another one of these self logos. So really, there's no brief involved apart from you want to position yourself. And someone just seeing this by itself might think it's a D and a Q together. That's what it looks like to me. I kind of see what you've done. I see the dragon's tail, but I don't really understand why you've been inspired by Dungeons and Dragons. How does that fit into your story of how you'll be doing brand work for other people? Maybe you could help me understand that, and I can critique this better. But as a logo, you know, it's a decent start. Maybe this dragon's tail could come through these two here and finish where this finishes. So you've got you know, a real sense of this logo doing something. Otherwise, it's slightly spindly. And looks slightly sort of floaty and doesn't really land anywhere. And also, if you're going to have as a logo, you need some text with it as well. So maybe you could resend this to me slightly more developed and with a bit more text in it as well. Okay, and we're going to have to finish on this one. So Jacob sent me a logo for a sushi restaurant in Poland. O means God, Kami means godlike. The name of the owner is King, but in Polish language. This logo with crown is using internet and social media, as owners want normal logo in restaurant without crown. Okay, so this is used different ways in different places. I really like this. I really like this. What you've done here with the kind of the O and fixing, you know, this god and godlike and the actual sushi part together. You know, it looks really smart. The only thing I would have done slightly is made these curves here a little bit less uniform, a bit more thick and thin like you've got here, but it looks quite nice as a brush stroke going around. Maybe simplify, just take this little dot off here so it looks like it's just a little bit more uniform. I do like this typeface, and what you've done down here is the kami and the sushi. Is it kami? I don't know. The kami and the sushi, one slightly thicker than the other, so you've got a real nice balance there with the colours. And again, you've used red, black and the gold nicely together. Maybe that kami could have been in that deep red colour, which would have made it really stand out as well. The crown is slightly cartoony, but again, you have to show me how this fits into context. It might work really well. I understand you're going to be taking that off and on, whether it's in different platforms, so that makes sense. But overall, really cool looking logo. I would really like to see this one in context, actually, how it's going to be used in the restaurant. So maybe on menus, on signage, that kind of thing. So maybe make sure you show me that as well. So hopefully that's all useful, and I will be back soon with another logo critique.